welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And happy belated Valentine's Day and happy belated Family Day. We're recording on Monday today, but we want to first start off with a shout out to our Facebook friends. There's quite a few of them, actually, that interact with us. It's Ron Ashley, Paul Baker, all the way from Wales, Shenley Chen, and Brian Lovering. So they all showed up actually as top fans on our Facebook page. So we want to say a big thank you for that. And it's great. We always love the interaction anyways with our Facebook and our social media friends.
And thank you also to Gordon, who follows us on Twitter and listens to our show all the way from Australia. We appreciate all our listeners and followers on social media, as we said, and we hope you got to check out our photos of Maple Leaf Gardens. If not, be sure to follow our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages, and also go to our Ko-fi website to see more photos and our personal stories. It's now 22 years, if you can believe it, since the last game was played there, and we have so many great memories from our time that we spent there. I personally remember the playoff games that we went to. I don't know, like you could never do this now. I don't know if people could sneak the stuff in, but you remember the guy that had in our section who had the sparklers? I thought that was fantastic. I don't know. There was just so many things like that that made those games extra special.
Yeah, I made a comment somewhere on social media about the sparkler guy because that's something I think obviously it stuck with both of us. Yeah. And it was funny. Dougie Gilmore, he posted, I guess yesterday, I think it was on Valentine's Day or the day before. It was the anniversary of when he got like the 6 assists, I think it was in the game, like the most assists as a Leaf in one game. And it was during that 92-93 season. And I remember every game there of that season was it was always so exciting to go down there. Like we always knew there was going to be like something happening, and the crowd was buzzing all the time. It was it was unbelievable. Like that time,
we didn't have like Maple Leaf Square like we have now, but it's like all of downtown Toronto was that. Like remember, all of the cars, the honking, and everything up and down the street, and the energy outside the gardens at the time always was. It was just supercharged. Like you could feel it. Like as soon as you got even close, like even once you're in College Station, for the subway, right?
Yeah, the thing I guess that I think for us too that we got attached to was just going and watching games from standing room in Maple Leaf Gardens. Like there's so many people that we met there. The only thing I didn't like, I was trying to think of it before we came on. I was like, the only thing I remember not liking was the glass was like, there was glass there for whatever reason. It was such a little area behind the red section, behind the net, if we describe it well to our listeners who've seen a game there, lucky enough. But the glass was all scratched. So I was like, I hated.
Yeah.
I was always like, there was like a foggy part of the glass, but still it didn't matter because we were all together in that spot and with Leaf fans, and it was just unbelievable. Like there's a lot of little places in the building that were unique and different, and the buildings today just don't have that. I don't know. Yeah. So, so another memory, which not quite as exciting, but I decided to put it in here, is that on February 29th is the last time we went to a Leaf game in person. That's coming up, the anniversary of that. And we were at the game at Scotiabank Arena for the Leafs and Canucks. That was our last game that we went to. And I was like, that is so sad. Following up something that's so happy with, or not happy, but we enjoyed our time at Maple Leaf Gardens and followed up with this, that we haven't been to a game in so long. I don't know.
Yeah, almost a year. It's kind of hard to believe. It just feels like in a blink of an eye, it's gone by. Anyway, I'm not sure when we'll be back in the arena, but for now, at least we have games being played, which I guess we have to be thankful for. And our Leafs are doing all right, actually better than all right so far. So let's get into what we're going to talk about in this episode. So first off, we have our next installment of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And we also have for you another new segment, which we're going to call Ladies Talkin' Leafs Highlight Reel, where we're going to choose our top 3 highlights from the past couple weeks. And we'll discuss those. And then we're going to wrap up with what's coming up for the blue and white. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
Okay, so the good, the bad, the ugly. Back for our second episode, official episode, or not episode, sorry, segment of the good, the bad, the ugly. So, actually, still never ended up telling me what her good, bad, and ugly.
I did, but I don't. I think it was in a text thread, and you might not have seen it, but I did text it to you.
All right, I didn't see it, but
so it'll be a surprise.
Yes, it's going to be a surprise. So I'm going to start off because, so with the good. The good I have as JT. I'm going against everybody. John Tavares, I don't know. Everybody's giving our captain some grief. I know.
I was going to say it's interesting that you chose this, given that there's just nothing but negatives with JT and Nylander everywhere today. But anyways, go on.
Yeah. So I don't know. Everybody's going on about him saying, actually, I have to give credit. They haven't brought in the contract yet. They're avoiding that contract part of it, and that. So I'm going to avoid it as well because it's not significant right now. So when I looked up the stats on him, I mean, he's obviously 5-on-5, like everybody's saying. He's not doing great. Both him and Nylander, they're just not. They don't have it right now 5-on-5. Hopefully that'll change tonight versus the Senators and moving forward. But he's second on the team in faceoff percentage at 60%. So he's just behind Spezza. Spezza's at 64%.
And isn't that like those percentages are pretty darn ridiculous, first of all. Yeah.
And it's not easy competition that he's getting, obviously. So everything being it's the second line now. I don't know. They were going on today. I heard somebody talking about the 1A and the 1B line. Well, now it's not the 1B line anymore. It's number 2. And I'm like, who? Like, really? I'm like, 1A and 1B? Like, why? Like, I don't know. I just think the media is sometimes, we're not a part of the media. We're different. We're fans. Anyways, I didn't like that. And yeah, so he's second behind Spets at 60%. On the face-off draw. He leads the team in the power play goals with 4. So he still leads them, which I was actually shocked. I checked that today because I wasn't sure. And he's second in shots taken behind Austin Matthews. So he's obviously getting the shots. I didn't go as far as to say on the heat map where the shots are located, but generally he's always around the net. Right. So I would think that a lot of them are in tight. And so those 3 things, despite being the reduced ice time he's reduced ice time a whole 2 minutes. Like last year, he was averaging about 19 minutes, 33 seconds. And this year he's averaging 17:47.
I was just that's what was coming to my mind as you were talking about his stats, is that I really feel like he's not on the ice as much as he has been in the past, because he's like, I think Keefe is really throwing Austin and Mitch out there all the time.
Yeah, like they're playing, like Marner, I think, is at 23 minutes average, and I think Matthews is 25 or one or the other, basically. But yeah, they're playing. It's like they took those extra couple of minutes.
For sure.
From Tavares. But I don't know. I just think a lot of it, I mean, yes, I mean, he's 30 years old now, so he might not be the player, let's say, to drive the line still, like he used to always like make the other player better. Back we've talked about this before with Matt Molson, I guess, was his winger in the Islanders and got him 50 goals or whatever it was, but it was mainly because Tavares was a driver of the line, right? Whether or not he can still drive a line, but to me, he doesn't have a line because Keefe doesn't have a set, like he doesn't have a winger to play with him. He has Nylander, but it's like interchangeable on the other side the whole time. And he keeps flipping. Nylander is a right winger, and he keeps flipping him. Like he put Nylander on the left one night I saw him, or for a few nights. It's like it's always interchanging. And I'm thinking to myself, how is a player supposed to get anything going when it's like constantly, whether it be Mikheyev or VC or I don't know, tonight apparently versus the Sens, they're going to put in Hyman there, which that's a thing.
Well, I guess that's what they started with, is it not? Oh no, they had actually, Hyman with Kerfoot and VC at the beginning.
Yeah, because it's very interesting because today, again, as I was listening to all the Leaf Talk shows and everything, I was like, they were promoting Hyman so much. I was like, you're really ruining Kyle Dubas's life here. I said, right? Because by pumping him up.
And ours too, because they're basically going to price him out of our team.
Exactly.
By pumping him up so much, I know.
Because they just keep saying how, like, oh no, you don't want to take Hyman away from Matthews and Marner because and I actually agree with that, but like they're just saying like, he's just invaluable to those two players sort of thing. But then you got to jumpstart JT and Nylander somehow and get them back and going. So the only way to do that is to have that energy guy like Hyman sort of thing, right? And then they're like, what about the third line? Originally that's what they wanted him to be on the checking line, to be that kind of gritty guy that has energy, that just, it causes like ruckus in the corners, that kind of thing, and be like a checking type player sort of thing. So he could go there too. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, he's like, what is Zach Hyman's the whole team here? I'm like, right. I'm like,
well, I mean,
he's going to be asking for $6 million at the end of the year.
He's the utility guy. Like I said, like he can go up and down. He can play anywhere you need him to play. For sure. But like, what about like Simmonds on like that he was playing also with JT and Nylander? And I think that was actually a really good combination. I like that.
And it was only Simmonds one game.
And Simmonds can give both of those guys more space. So, so like basically I think that it's not early in this season, but it's still early. And I still think that Keefe is still trying to find the right fits,
Yeah. But because of that, I just don't think that people should ream on John Tavares with the way he's.
And really, should anybody be reaming on anything right now? Like, how much? Like, these guys can't win no matter what. Like, even if they win the cup, people are going to be complaining about all the things that they didn't do right, and it wasn't a perfect cup win somehow. Like, they're in first freaking place. So come on.
Yeah. The only thing that I would ream out on, and I'm not going to go, or we're not going to get into it now because we need to get into your good side, is Pierre Engvall and Jimmy Vesey. Because to me,
we're going to get into that too, because that's going to come up in one of my sections also. Okay.
All right, so what's your good?
So my good actually is Austin Matthews. Not for, obviously in this stretch he had a goal streak. But that's not what I want to talk about. Actually, I want to talk about his defensive game. And remember with our very first episode when the season started, we talked about, what did he add to his arsenal over the summer? And we couldn't quite figure out. Well, I think that we are seeing that now. I think that and that fitness has a huge piece to do with this too, that he worked on, is basically rounding out his game and working on his defensive game. And I'm like so impressed with that. Like I looked as comparison to see like the amount of hits he's dishing out each game now versus what he has in the past. There are several games in the past season, even last year, where he didn't hit anybody at all, like all in a row, like 6 or 7 games in a row without a hit. And I don't think you can even, there's barely any games so far that he doesn't have at least one hit. And they're often at a critical time. he's got like, he's a takeaway machine. I've got to say, like, his attention to that is so impressive. But he's just rounding out his game to becoming like a really complete player. And I'm like super impressed with that.
It was funny. I heard one of the Hab players, I think it was Joel Edmondson, I guess, after yesterday, because they're now off for the week or whatever. They have their break. Mm-hmm. But they were talking about from the game the night before, and they were just asking him about Austin Matthews and the fact that he does seem to be showing like the physical part of the game. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Oh, really? I didn't see that." I'm like,
well, there's like some games that I looked at and he had like 4 hits, 6 hits. Yeah. Like,
I mean, he's not going to be bone crushing like
no, because that's not his job, and I don't want him to do that either.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he's being responsible in that area now, and you can tell that he's adding this piece to his game, and I'm loving that. I mean, it's gonna take away a little bit from his offense, but eventually it's not, like eventually all of it's going to click on all cylinders. And so, I'm pretty pumped about that part.
Yeah, no, he's becoming basically a more complete player. Mm-hmm. And he should right now, like we should be talking about him, whether it be as a Hart Trophy candidate or even a Selke Trophy candidate. Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't watched much of Bergeron. Seems to be on Boston, always seems to be the winner of that trophy sort of thing. But eventually you would think age would catch up with the guy and someone else will win it. Mm-hmm. Right?
You would think.
You would think, right? But I think definitely like we should be talking about that like as we get closer.
For sure we will be at some stage in his career. I mean, it's
no, like I think it's going to be this season. I think he's going to, like, as long as we can, I don't know. It seems that as long as the team, rather than talking about the individuals here, but as long as the team kind of gets the balance right with the offense and the defense and it comes together for them, I think we can be talking about it this season. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, so let's go on then to the bad. Mm-hmm. So the bad that I chose was this 11 forward 7D combination of lineup that Tampa apparently we've really used it last season or in the last couple of years. John Cooper, the coach there, really made it work for them. I don't think they're doing it on a full-time basis, but on many games they were doing that. But I don't know. I just find that there's no, like they did it twice so far as I could tell. I went back. They did it versus Winnipeg, and they had Lettinen as the 7th defenseman, and he played like a total of 6 minutes and just over 6 minutes. And then they did it in the second game, actually it was the third game versus Vancouver. They had Sandin finally. Woo! He got into a game and he played all of exactly 5 minutes in the game.
Yeah, he did a lot with those 5 minutes, though, I have to say.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just find that you can't, well, especially the defense, they can't get into like that alternating of the defensemen, like especially for like it's always at the bottom, like at the bottom pairing with Bogosian. Like he's constantly having to like figure out, okay, am I playing with Lettinen? Am I playing with Dermott? Am I playing with this guy? Am I playing with that guy? Like I don't know. You just can't get. And then even with the forwards, like I think Keefe was convinced after that game against Vancouver. I think he was convinced that he doesn't want to try that again if he doesn't have to. Because
I was going to say Keefe didn't really like it either.
After the first one, he was so about it. He didn't really say too much, but then he actually did say in the press conference after the Vancouver game that like because I mean, if let's just say you get the injury to a forward, like you're going to have 3 lines plus one, right? Like plus one guy. Like you're really shortening your forward lines.
No, and then no one can get any flow. Like you're not going to get any flow with your offense or your D. So I don't know. It's
so
I would say it'd be hard to for sure 100% throw it out as an option. after just trying it twice. But in a short season, how much do you want to experiment in game, right? So,
yeah. The only thing positive, like you were saying, was Sandine, and that was funny. I just have to say it, the fact that it was the game-winning Austin Matthews goal, game-winning goal, and he basically, Marner apparently went before the draw. Marner went over to him and said, "Look, if he wins the draw, get the puck to me, and that's fine, and we're done." And that's basically what happened. Because that's what Sandine said. Mitch came to me. He said, "Get the puck to me, and we're good." So he said that's what he did. Austin won the draw, and he got the puck to Mitch, and then they did the rest. He's like, and I said, "That's great, fantastic."
That's teamwork, folks.
Yeah, exactly. That was easy. But what was your bad?
Okay, so you sort of mentioned it earlier. My bad was basically the third line. I don't know what the heck's going on there. Like Kerfoot, all the stupid penalties he's picking up, the fact that they can't seem to find any kind of group that seems to be working there. I don't know. They seem to start strong at the very beginning, but somehow it's sort of kind of falling apart a little bit. And I got no answers to them. I don't know what the heck is going on there.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I don't know. That's why there has been talk of the whole trade thing, like Elliot Friedman apparently, which kind of bugged me actually, because he said that he's the only one out of the insider guys, let's say, on the networks that has come out and said like the Leafs were definitely talking to like one team in particular, but he doesn't want to say who it is. And they're looking for a forward. And I'm like, okay, well, why are you even mentioning it then if you don't want to say who it is or anything, right? Then obviously it must not be anything of importance or anything, right? But now whether or not, like, again, this goes into something else about like who you're going to trade and like, because it's definitely, I think, a gritty type of forward, because with Simmonds getting injured, you can tell that we're missing.
Oh, totally.
We only have him, right? Like that's for his style of player. Like that's it. It's Wayne Simmonds. We don't have anyone to replace that. So like, who are you going to get that could maybe be that type of player as well? Like similar to Simmonds, basically, right? So if something happens,
there's nobody else like him.
No,
he's like such a unique kind of person.
Because that's what you need on that third line.
Yeah.
Right. And then you could, and if it's a center, like you mentioned to me, I guess, which was interesting because somebody mentioned it that they could actually be looking for the center, which would be what you told me by text the other day, that Sam Bennett from Calgary, right? Like, and then put Kerfoot on the wing. Because maybe center, maybe it's just too much for Kerfoot because he seemed to play okay with Tavares, like last year in the bubble, like he played with him on the wing. Like Kerfoot was the winger, but I don't know. It's just like there's right, and then Pierre Engvall, I don't know. Again, I guess it goes back to that contract last year, like we talked in our shows last year, even saying once he got the contract, like because he's a big body. He's pretty fast.
Yeah, he's
like,
a good skater.
Skating ability is great. He has all the tools to be that third line player, but it just doesn't happen for him. He's just like, you don't know what he's doing out there. Like on Saturday night, like you couldn't, I don't know. I didn't really even notice him.
I hardly notice him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not good when you're a forward.
Yeah. Whereas
when
at least
you're a defenseman, that's good. Like to not notice a defenseman, but if you're forward, no, like you got to be doing something, right?
Yeah. Whereas at least that Travis Boyd, like he's on the fourth line.
I know that's the thing. That fourth line is getting much better chances. They're getting in the zone. They're getting the stops in the offensive zone.
Yeah.
That's kind of, if you're not going to be scoring, you at least want to get the stops there so that we can get our top line on, win the face-off, get the chances. Like
Yeah, and then you get the momentum basically, like
exactly,
as, like getting a good shift in, get the momentum going, so the top line will come out after that, and hopefully bury it like in the net or anything. But yeah, I don't know. It's still a work in progress for another work in progress for Keefe to try and figure out like who's. I was really wishing VC. I mean, from our first show this season, like we thought that chemistry would happen with Kerfoot.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. It's just not happening for Jimmy VC, right? Like since he played well the first few games, and then now again you barely notice him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know.
It's odd. So yeah, I would say that is bad. But as for ugly, I don't have any ugly, so that's a good thing.
That's right.
So
I don't either.
Know, did you
ugly
have ugly
for me either?
No ugly? No. Okay, so sometimes we're not going to have an ugly, so that's good. I mean, I guess the refs are always ugly in our case, but in my case, I don't like the refs. Yeah, so we're going to go on to some more positivity with our new regular segment called Ladies Talking Leafs Highlight Reel.
That's right.
So take it away.
So in the third spot, we were talking a little bit about, second line, third line, things like that. But last time, I think we mentioned that, Mikheyev, what's going on with Mikheyev? He can't finish. Well, Mikheyev finally scored versus the Habs in Montreal. Woohoo! So he ended up getting the game-winning goal that night, so he's off the schneid. So very happy for Soupman, and
hopefully that'll get him. Like once one goes in, maybe like a ton of them will go in.
That's
for
right.
Him now. Yeah.
Honorable mentions for this slot. Also, we mentioned earlier Rasmus Sandin, who played a total of 5 minutes in his first game, but he got an assist on the Matthews goal versus Vancouver. So good on him. And that is our third slot there.
Number 3. So number 2 on our highlight reel is Spezza's hat trick versus Vancouver in the first game of the 3-game series. Now that was something to see.
Such a special night.
Yeah.
I was so happy after that game. I'm still smiling, like you guys can't see me, but like I got a huge smile on my face right now. It's all the good feels happening when you think about
the
that.
arena staff there, I mean, there's obviously staff there. They should have something like to even throw a few hats or do something like for those cases. You never know, right? Like make it.
The other thing is technically, like with all the gizmos and gadgets and audio visual things that they have nowadays for in-game shows, could they not like even do like just like raining down hats with just like lights and stuff, like
something,
like you could like if this was Vegas, they would totally do something like that, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, Vegas has those gold hats. I know.
Like
the
that's
gold
the thing.
helmets.
Like they actually have the potential to do something where they don't even have to pick up the hats. They can just do some sort of light show, sound.
I don't know.
Make it more interesting.
I mean, we were obviously like the final goal. I replayed it. I looked at it again today, and I just thought, because they were all saying how it was vintage Spezza, right? Like because he was like he cut in on goal, and then he just kind of went around the goalie's leg there and tucked it in. And I was like, oh, I like that. That was so fun. I said, I wish there was a crowd there for him. That's the thing, like between like for him, for that kind of moment, for the Simmonds moment where he scores his first goal or even had the fight in one of the games. Like if the crowd was there, it would have just made it so much more meaning for them too, like for us as fans and for them sort of thing too. But anyways, we're there in Maple Leaf spirit, I like that quote of yours. All right.
And so number 1 on this segment of our highlight reel is actually going to player and team stat streaks. So we're definitely keeping the NHL PR and Sportsnet stats busy on Twitter, that's for sure. So The first one we want to highlight is Marner versus the Canucks. He got his 14th career 3-assist game during a regular season, tying Sundin with fourth most in Leafs history. And he has had his longest assist streak with 8 games with an assist, 2 short of his career high with an assist in consecutive games. And what about we have another player to touch on, Chris?
Yeah, so there's Matthews, of course. It's the dynamic duo.
Yeah.
They follow each other. So he has an 8-game goal streak. Unfortunately, it ended with the Habs on Wednesday, but he had an 8-game goal streak. I personally think it's because the reason why these things end is because people like the NHL PR and the SN stats, they talk about it too much anyways. I think it's better as it's just the same as a shutout, right? Like as soon as you say shutout, like forget it, it's done sort of thing. But anyways, okay. So he had the 8-game goal streak going, but and then he got his 300th point, second youngest in Leafs history to get that to that mark. Vincent Damphousse was the youngest player to get to 300 points. And then going into tonight's game versus Ottawa, he has a 9-game point streak going. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And then the team itself. You want to go with the team?
Yeah. So until the game versus the Habs on Saturday night, we had a point streak going by getting at least a point in each of the last 9 games in consecutive seasons. So last season we had a 10-game point streak. So, by all accounts, things are clicking along very nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, and
so obviously it's time to start some new streaks as it's Monday night, and we are moving into our next segment, which is what's coming up for the Blue and White.
Yeah, so we're recording this on Monday, and so we got I guess the 3-game home set versus the Sens. It includes a back-to-back on Wednesday and Thursday. And then on Saturday night, we go into Montreal again versus the Habs. And then we don't see them again until April, which is kind of weird.
And I think we kind of round out the end of the season with a 3-game set against them, too. So that's going to be, could be downright nasty.
Yeah. And then
in the end.
And then for the last week of February, we got a 2-game set at home versus Calgary before heading out west to face the Oilers for 3 games. Mm-hmm. So let's just start with the Sens, I guess. What do you like? To me, they have to win all 3 games, or they should.
God, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like I don't want any of these like giving them 1 game. Like no, they need to really show their prowess and take all of these games. I think that they need to start loading the net again, get their confidence back a little bit if it started to slide. Do you think that Hutchison is going to get into one of the games in the back-to-back?
Yes, he should get into. I think he should. Like, I don't understand, because it's going to be 3 games in 4 nights by that time. Mm-hmm. Like, because they're playing Wednesday, Thursday, and then they play the Habs on Saturday. So you got to get Hutchison in there. It was good that Jack Campbell apparently is on the ice, and today he was working with Steve Briere, the goaltender coach, and all that. That's great. But you got to give Freddie some rest. I mean, like, for once, nobody is actually complaining about him.
Yeah.
They've gone on to John Tavares instead. And like, it just seems to change from one focus to another. So you don't want, you just need to get him a little bit of rest here. And it's better that Hutchison plays the second game, I think, of the back-to-back.
100%. And I think if you trusted him enough to give him money, you need to trust him enough to actually play a game and show him that he can be different than he was. Like, I think the situation is different. The environment is different. The atmosphere. So we have different coaching staff.
Yeah, it's all.
I'm sure the messaging will be different towards him. I think you need to give him a chance to show that he can deliver.
Yeah, and then plus, I guess for Freddie, like, I mean, you want him playing in Montreal on Saturday night.
Yeah,
and for that game, I mean, like, the Habs are off for 6 days now, so it could go either way. Some of the games that I've seen with the teams that have that break, like that first game is not that great for them. But then that's the third game in 4 nights. So we're not going to, we need Freddie to be fresh, let's just say on that night, because the rest of the team is going to be going, or like, they're going to be, I don't know how to word it, but they're on their, I mean, they should be able to handle it, but it's tough on the third game of 4 nights.
For sure.
And then we got Calgary, which is going to be interesting because they lost both games here the last time. And then there was that whole thing at the end of the game with Muzzin and Kachuk.
I wonder if there's been long enough time between that now that it's sort of been a little bit forgotten.
Yeah, I don't think anything will happen, but it's just like, the media is going to come up and remind people of that, how he flipped the puck at him or whatever sort of thing, right? But Kachuk is an idiot anyway, sort of thing. So he'll do something else to make himself annoying. But they're going to be up for it because of the fact they lost both games that against us the last time, and then we got the Oilers again, which quite a distance away. It's at least a couple of weeks, but they're doing well right now. So I don't know. It's always obviously the Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews kind of thing. And now I guess with the Oilers, they got Mike Smith back in goal, right? So they're doing better. So, but that'll be like, cause we've been at home a lot, right? So
yeah, on this last little stretch.
Yeah, that'll be our thing to go out on the road, go out west a little bit and see how it goes. Hopefully by then they'll have a winger for or somebody for JT, so, and or at least have one, maybe a third line or a winger for JT. I don't know. Maybe he can't solve everything all at once, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. And there's also, sorry, we didn't mention it, how we couldn't mention it, is tonight apparently Thornton is going to be coming back, right?
Yeah.
Joe Thornton, right?
So we'll see how that goes. He seems pretty pumped to get back in the lineup. So he's going to be back on the top line again. So obviously that's going to have a little bit of a shuffle down effect. So we'll see how that all shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he should be on the, like, just immediately. I'm not really a fan of him going right up there with Matthews and Marner, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, he's probably going to start there, and who's to say if he actually finishes the game there? I don't, like, Keefe, he's not one to stick to that just because he started that way.
They're managing the minutes, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah. So, the couple of league notes. Do you want to?
Yeah. So a couple notes that we wanted to add before we move on is just to mention that the AHL is actually getting started and the Marlies are back. And they are starting a 4-game stint versus the Manitoba Moose in the 5-team Canadian division. That is kind of mirroring what we're doing in the big league. And so this is an opportunity for, especially Sandine and Robertson to get a lot more playing time. And they're going to be the go-to guys, I guess, for the team. So definitely want to look out for them and getting their skates under them.
And as you mentioned, Nick Robertson, I was thinking maybe he'll be the answer for John Tavares and William Nylander.
Well, that's the person that came to my mind instantly. I think we were talking about it, and he's who came to my mind. He's an energy guy,
so
who can finish.
So he might. I mean, he's been out for a while, obviously. So he'll probably. I would think it would be a good thing for him to get lots of minutes and play all 4 games in the with the Marlies, and then because Keefe also said like he doesn't expect him to be down there that long. But then of course I was also reminded there is the salary cap issue to contend with. Not to say that he's on an entry level contract, but still they said Brandon Pridham was really working the numbers today. So we'll wait for that, but that is a possibility. Yeah.
And one more note to add, this is actually a league note, is that next week there's the outdoor games in Lake Tahoe in California. So those are going to be some interesting ones to watch. Vegas and Colorado in one on the Saturday, and Philly and Boston in game number 2 on Sunday. So both of those games are at 3 p.m. next weekend. I'm kind of interested to see how the setup's going to be there. It would be nice if they did it out in the woods somewhere, but I don't think they can really do that. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's gonna, like we were talking before we got on, like it just seemed that I didn't really know about it a lot. I saw, I guess, the time lapse thing, I guess, of them building the rink there a couple of weeks ago. And, yeah, it's just something fun just to see, the, I guess, it won't be the same because fans won't be there, obviously, but just to see the scenery basically around the rink and how they make it all up to be like a show. And it's perfect because Vegas is involved. And then I don't know why Bruins and Flyers got in there, but as the second game. But anyways, somehow they always get in there. Bruins, I think, actually both teams, they've done a lot of outdoor games. But I'll be cheering. I think you'll cheer for JVR, sure.
Oh, yeah,
You're not going to cheer for Marchand. And
no.
Yeah. And I don't know, on the other side, I don't know, you don't seem to like Naz too much, so I'm cheering for Naz.
I love Naz. I love Naz and I miss Naz, but I don't feel the same way about the deal that you do. That's all. And I do like Colorado, so that they would be my pick, I think, in that game. Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I guess that's about it. That's all we got for our show today. It's going to be interesting to see how Thornton comes back this first few games, and I guess and being without Simmonds for a while too. That's gonna take a lot out of us unless I don't know, somebody has to step up, basically. Mm-hmm. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you want to find out how to support us, please consider buying us a coffee. Visit and follow us at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com. And we have plans to improve the show, and every little bit helps. So you can make a donation using our handle LTL1917, and you can find the link on our Buzzsprout website, as well as all on our social media. We have them in our bio profile, so you can find all our links there.
And just a shout out to our latest donor, Jim. Thank you so much, Jim, for buying us a coffee. We really appreciate it. And we would also really appreciate it if you would take a bit of time to give our podcast a review or a rating on whatever app you use to listen to us. So if you don't already, you can follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at LTL1917, and we will keep you posted on what's going on with our Leafs. You can also always email us at ladiestalkingleafs@gmail.com to give us any feedback or ideas for future shows. So as always, we want to say a very heartfelt thank you to our healthcare workers for everything they do. And everybody stay safe.
See ya. Go Leafs, go.